What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another live edition of the Unquestionably Raw NBA podcast. I am your host, Matt Miller. We got Brady Klopfer with us and Gonzo again. Tonight, first, I want to start with the Cavs and the Raptors. We're going to talk about both of the games, but Cavs and Raptors obviously was a blowout. But I want to start with that because I'm sure we don't have much to talk about on that one because it kind of is what it is. But I'm going to go to you first, Gonzo. Your thoughts overall on this Cavs versus Raptors game tonight? Domination by the Cavs again.
Yeah, total domination. I don't want to. I don't really want to pour any salt on any wounds or to point out anything about the Cavs, but it's amazing. LeBron James has had, I think, 7 straight years in the NBA Finals, and honestly, I gotta kind of give a lot of that run, give a lot of credit to that run, due to the fact that the Eastern Conference is absolutely terrible. Like the only competition he's ever had is against Boston with KG, Pierce, and Rondo and Ray Allen one year. But
And
other than that,
that was when he was with Cleveland.
that was when he was with Cleveland, and he, and they had that maybe that one. If I'm not mistaken, I think they had a 7-game series that they played against Boston. I think
That
in the
was in
Eastern
Miami.
Conference Final.
That was it. That was in.
Yeah, that was in Miami.
Yeah.
That was in Miami. But again,
Yeah.
it just they haven't played any competition besides that same Boston team, pretty much. And it just goes to show you how much more loaded the Cavaliers are than everybody else, and how weak the conference is. I asked somebody the question the other day: if you put LeBron James in the Western Conference, are they still making it to the finals? I think not. I think it's more competition in the West. I think it's much more difficult in the West. I don't think that run will be so much the same in the Western Conference. But anyway, Toronto Raptors are terrible. I think that DeMar DeRozan, I think he was 0 for 7 in the first half with 1 point.
Yep. Yep.
Terrible. They look just like the same Toronto Raptors that we saw in the first 2 games
Against Milwaukee.
against the Milwaukee Bucks. And the different thing with the thing is different with the Milwaukee Bucks is that they were fired up to come back and win that series after after the Milwaukee Bucks had played the Barney songs in the starting lineup, so that kind of got them fired up and lit a fire underneath them. But if Cleveland was to do the same thing, I think the results would be very, very different this time. I think they'd probably get beat even worse. Like they look terrible out there in the basketball court. They look like they have no chemistry.
Let me ask you this, Gonzo, because in my notes here, Valanciunas had a fantastic game. Do you think the Raptors need to use him more? Because the Cavs have no answer for him down low.
They don't. I think they should, but I don't think they have the type of point guard that can actually get him the ball to get Valanciunas the ball like that, especially in spots where he needs the ball. Kyle Lowry is not a. I don't think he's a pass first point guard, but I don't think he's a score first point guard. He's kind of like one of those in between. You just don't know what you're gonna get on any given night.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not consistent enough. I just think that it's a bunch of talent put together. It's a bunch of good individual talent, but there's not a lot of good team players on Toronto.
So,
And Dwayne Case is terrible.
and they're not one of the greatest. Like they're not great with the assists and all that. I think they were dead last in assists this year and during the regular season. Brady, you may be able to back me up on that. I think they were dead last or somewhere. They were at the bottom of the league. Yeah, they were at the bottom of the league because it's a heavy dose of one-on-one from Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. I think it's not looking good for them. And then you've got the ankle injury of it looked like a high ankle sprain there, I think, from Kyle Lowry when was it Powell who collided into him? I think it was Powell. But yeah, I think you hit it, Gonzo. This team is really in trouble. They don't use Valanciunas right. Brady, what did you think of what you saw Cavs Raptors?
My biggest takeaway, this game was just painful to me as a basketball fan. But like you said, Matt, Toronto, they don't get assists. They don't move the ball incredibly well. I like Kyle Lowry a lot, but as a team, they score one-on-one. And they have some guys who can do it well, but the problem is Cleveland is a bad defensive team. They don't rotate well. They don't defend the pick and roll well. The one thing that they can do half decently is they can defend you one-on-one. Between LeBron, Shumpert, J.R. Smith, those guys can at least defend in isolation. Maybe not great, but decently.
And you know what? And Kyrie Irving is a decent on-ball defensive player.
He's a decent on-ball defender. So when you have DeMar DeRozan, as good as he at times has been this year, when you have him trying to go one-on-one, you are just playing into the Cleveland Cavaliers' strength, and you are just completely taking away any kind of weakness that they present and any kind of opportunity that you can exploit. And it's just bad. It's bad basketball.
Absolutely. And you know what? I don't think I'm visiting my parents right now, and I was watching the game with my dad, and I got into basketball because of him. I was 5. He was coaching at one of the high schools by where we lived, and he said they don't use Ibaka right. He does not like the way they use Serge Ibaka. And I think there's something because Ibaka can play, but I think a lot of that is the one-on-one of Lowry and DeRozan. And we had a question earlier in the season, it's probably in December. One of the things we were talking about, I think Gonzo, you may have even been on that one. Can the Raptors keep this historic offensive rating they were on at the time? They couldn't. They play one-on-one. It was going to take a drop. And you're right. It plays right into the Cavs' hands. They've got some good individual defenders. At any time, LeBron James is going to shut down whoever he guards, whether it's Lowry, DeRozan, it doesn't matter. Then Shumpert can play on-ball defense. Kyrie Irving can play some on-ball defense. J.R. Smith is a really good on-ball defender. Even on if they go pick and roll, Tristan Thompson can do a little bit on the ball. We saw it last year in the finals against Golden State. So I think that's a big problem right there for the Raptors. I just, I kind of do like Valanciunas coming off the bench because I think he gets to now match up against guys like Tristan Thompson, and he's going to dominate those guys. And I think Corey Joseph will do a better job getting him the basketball. A guy I would really like to see them play, yes, being an Illinois guy, he's from Rockford. I want more Fred VanVleet. I think he's going to move the ball. He's going to be great defensively. I think he'd be really good in that second unit as well. You could put Corey Joseph at the 2. I mean, he's 6'2", 6'3". They're not getting much, out of Damari Carroll. I noticed that. And a couple things that I did see here. Lowry did play well before he got hurt. He was pretty good today. But I noticed the Raptors in that second quarter, they would get it because their inability to close out quarters is standing out to me, and I don't like that. Obviously, today Cleveland, they start out 8 of 8 from 3. You're going to lose when that happens. J.R. Smith got off to a decent start, and the really. What's going on with Norman Powell? He was fantastic against Milwaukee. 9 of 10 10 of 11 from 3, making layups, getting to the basket. Now he can't throw it in the ocean. He's terrible. He can't even make a free throw in this series. It's bad. Yeah, and because they can't use Valanciunas correctly, they're not using Ibaka. I think the Raptors, I think, will get one going back. They'll be hyped. DeRozan and Lowry will make tough shots. Like they'll get one series. They'll both hit tough shots. But for the most part, I think they're done. It's going to be over in 5. It's not going to be like last year. And it's sad because Toronto is actually deeper this year. But I think it's over in 5. But this is going to get us into Rockets versus Spurs. And I'm going to go to you, Brady, on this one. It was actually a close game for 3 quarters. Spurs had a 5-point lead going into the fourth quarter. What were your thoughts on this one? And we won't talk about Tony Parker just yet, so we'll save that.
It sounds good. I like that they made a lot of adjustments, obviously, the Spurs did.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing to me was that they just ran the offense through Kawhi Leonard, which they kind of didn't do much of in the first game. They kind of just tried to go to a kind of weird little basic motion offense for that first game, and it wasn't fast enough to really create much spacing, and they weren't giving it to their best offensive player, and it was just kind of weird. And this time, they put the ball in Kawhi's hands a lot. They counted on him to either get his own shots or open up the floor for his teammates. And they just moved the ball so much quicker than they did in the first game. They just kept it moving, exploited the fact that Houston doesn't have great movement defensively. and they just kept the ball moving. They made the extra pass. They didn't hold on to the ball. I liked how Popovich kept putting in some of his younger, more athletic, more spry players, so that they always seem to have, at least one or two of those Patty Mills, Jonathan Simmons kind of players who could really bring an energy, bring a spark, and have that first step that was really keeping the defense honest. And they just executed in a way that we saw them do throughout the course of the season and didn't see them do the other night.
Absolutely. What about on Houston? And what didn't you like about what the Rockets did tonight? I mean, they actually, for the first 3 quarters, they actually shot just as good overall as they did in game 1. And I know that they controlled the pace for 3 quarters.
They did. It was a high-scoring game, which obviously plays into Houston's favor. I thought Houston, they started to kind of fall back into their stand around and watch James Harden habits a little bit late in the game. And the Spurs did a really good job defending Harden this time. They kind of trusted the Kawhi Leonard or Danny Green or whoever they ended up having on him to be able to guard him one-on-one, to be able to move backwards without fouling. And then the help defenders were just attacking the passing lanes. And so we're so used to seeing people collapse on Harden, and then he makes these crazy passes out to his players on the wing. And this time the Spurs, they weren't collapsing so much as they were jumping into where those lanes were and keeping that pass from coming in. As a result, Harden was just
And in the first half, and even probably through 3, I don't know what the stats are in the 3 quarter, but I know for the first half, I think the Rockets only got 12 3-point shots up. So the Spurs did a really good job they did really good job on not letting the Rockets. They shot a high percentage, but they didn't get the attempts up there. So I think that was a good job by San Antonio on that end. Gonzo, what were your thoughts on this game? What did you think the Spurs did well?
I think that the ball movement was a lot better tonight. I'm slightly disappointed in LaMarcus Aldridge still, but let's give a lot of credit to Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard's defense on James Harden too on those switches, because I think James Harden shot 3 for 17 tonight, something like that.
He did not shoot well at all.
He did not shoot well at all. Another thing too, Clint Capella with those 14 rebounds last game. Gasol took care of the glass.
Yes,
because he got a lot of those tip out, especially on defense. He got tipping the ball out to his teammates. On offense, he was doing the same thing. He really came out big tonight. Danny Green, he showed up good in the first half. Tony Parker was knocking down the mid-range jumper, and I like Patty Mills' change of pace when he's in there on the second unit, because I realized something about Patrick Beverley. It's 2 different type of defenders. I see. I'm starting to realize that you have players like Kawhi, and you have guys like Trevor Ariza. They're calm defenders. They're not overly aggressive, and they're not too passive either. You know what I'm saying? So they know how to stay in position.
They stay under control.
They stay under control. Patrick Beverley's a little too aggressive, so sometimes Patty Mills can, like, he got him with the little spin off, and he went to the basket, aggressive, and he kind of shook him. So he uses his aggressiveness against him. So I think Patty Mills did a good job with that. I want to see Dedmon used more. I think that he could be a defensive presence on the team a little more. But other than that, they played really, really good tonight, and they played good defense on the main guys especially. They didn't let Ryan Anderson get off in the second half like he was getting off in the first half with those deep threes. So it was a big adjustment, I think, for San Antonio second half. The game, I think they played the game a whole lot better. I told everybody after the first game, I said, this series over. I said, let's see what San Antonio is going to respond first. If they come back and beat them by 20, I said, the momentum shift might be back in San Antonio's favor now. But with the injury to Tony Parker, I'm a little concerned because he did put up, 18 points tonight. But I think Patty Mills and Jonathan Simmons can pick that slack up, though.
Absolutely. A couple of notes that I noticed from this. Obviously, like you guys said, the defense in Harden, especially in the pick and roll, they did a lot of blitzing, a lot of trapping, forcing it out of his hands. So I like that. The Gasol start was beautiful. Gasol didn't have great offensive numbers, 12, something like that. But I stopped counting once they took him out and he got out of hand. But at that point, like, quarter, he had 6 offensive rebounds and 4 blocks. How big was that? 13 total rebounds. That was huge. Danny Green, like you said, hot start. But here's the 3 numbers that really, impressed me from San Antonio, which helps. 13 out of 16, Kawhi Leonard. 5 of 7 from Danny Green. 8 of 13 from Tony Parker. I mean, that was fantastic from your perimeter guys. That's exactly what they needed. And then on the Rockets side, 5 of 13 Beverly, 3 of 17 from Harden. Ariza was 1 for 5. They were complete non-factors. I mean, Harden, he still had the 10 assists, the 7 rebounds, but he shot the ball terrible. Off the bench, Lou Williams, 2 for 7. Ine was pretty good. Capella still had his 14, but like Gonzo said, the rebound, he went 14. He only had 3 today. So they did a really good job there. So I think that move was very good by Popovich. If you're going to – because he knew that by putting Powell in defensively on the pick and roll, if you're going to play it the same, it's going to be the same result. So he trapped. So he helped Powell out in that. But Powell did a great job on the glass and blocking shots, protecting the rim. I still think the Spurs are in trouble in this series because, like I said, the Rockets controlled the pace for 3 quarters. The difference was San Antonio was shooting 55, 56 quarters. You're going to win the game when you do that, even as good as the Rockets were playing. The Spurs were not defending well until the 4th quarter. It just got out. The Spurs jumped out 9-0 quick in the 4th quarter, and that ended it. But now that's going to lead me to this because in that 4th quarter, unfortunately, Tony Parker goes down with an apparent knee injury. I don't want to speculate because, our good buddy Keith Smith, He told me, we don't want to speculate on injuries. NBA teams hate that, so we're not going to do that. But what I will do is this. I'm going to go to you first, Gonzo. If Tony Parker is out for extended time in this series, how do you think that affects the Spurs?
I don't know. I think that you have enough experience-wise it would affect them, but I believe Patty Mills, like I said, you would probably have to do it with 2 players. You probably have to get Jonathan Simmons and Patty Mills more playing time. And I think I think those 2 alone can come up with 25, 27 points between the 2 of them. I think they could, honestly, a game right now, especially in this series. That could possibly get them out of this round. But championship-wise, I think you need Tony Parker.
Mm-hmm. They're not beating Golden State without him.
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. Brady, what are your thoughts on the Spurs? If Tony misses, obviously we can all speculate what we think it is. I have an idea what I think it is. I'm not going to go there. But if he's out for an extended time, how do you think that hurts the Spurs in this series and then going forward if they do get by the Rockets and have to play Golden State?
In this series, I don't think it's a death sentence. It obviously hurts them. I think one of the things that Parker was doing really well today was he was really getting inside the 3-point line and then kicking it out. He was doing a really great job of penetrating and then bringing the ball back out, whereas in game 1, we really saw them just kind of move the ball around the perimeter a lot. And even though Patty Mills and Jonathan Simmons are both really good players, Tony Parker has just an incredible ability to keep things in control and to penetrate and then bring the ball back out and understand how to operate the offense. So it's definitely a hit, but Mills and Simmons are both very good for what the Spurs asked them to do. The offense should be running through Kawhi most of the time when he's on the floor anyway. Absolutely. Can run the offense a lot as well. So I still think that it doesn't hurt them very much in this series. Like you said, going forward, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine them beating the Warriors with Parker. It's really hard to imagine them beating them without him.
Because it just hurts their depth. And I wanted to go to something that I did not say. One thing I liked what the Spurs did, you guys mentioned it with the ball movement. In game 1, they were taking quick shots, contested shots, playing right into the Rockets' hands. You get into that kind of a game, you're going to lose. I thought Popovich did a great job of having them play Spurs basketball. They didn't get into that nonsense of taking a quick shot, contested shots. They did a really good job getting their looks. Everything. If they took a 3, it was wide open. Then you had guys getting their 10 to 15-foot jump shots, floaters, all that good stuff. So I thought they did good there. But Tony Parker, I think initially it won't hurt him in this series, but the longer the series goes, because now I think it does go 6. Which I did pick it to go Rockets in 6. I think that's still what we're going to get, but I think that's going to definitely hurt. And you hate to see it because you want these teams at full strength. I mean, look at the finals the last 2 years. The Warriors win 2 years ago. Kyrie's out, Love's out. That sucks. Last year, Draymond gets suspended. Bogut gets hurt. Iguodala hurts his back, and teams aren't fully. You want these teams to be fully healthy. It really sucks for San Antonio. And you're right. If Parker plays, it probably doesn't make much of a difference. Like even if he plays, Golden State is just that good. Yeah, and that's a good segue because I do want to talk about that real quick before we go into our final topic of the evening. Last night, obviously, Golden State Utah was a 12-point game, but for the most part, I mean, Golden State had them. And I'm going to you, Brady. You're out there on the West Coast. What were your thoughts last night with Golden State versus Utah?
The Warriors are just a lot better.
Yes.
Is what it boiled down to. I mean, yeah, it was only a 12-point game. Curry didn't shoot particularly well. Clay didn't shoot particularly well.
Curry shot well from the field, I think, overall. His threes, I think he was 1 for, what was he on 3? 1 for 4, 1 for 5, I think.
Yeah, I think
but overall, he shot over 50%.
Yeah, I think it was like 11 for 20 from the field.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest takeaway for me that I expected to see, but it's still kind of shocking when you see it, is I like Gordon Hayward a lot, but he went from guarding Luke Mbamute in the first round to guarding Kevin Durant in this round. And you saw it on the offensive end. He just didn't have the energy on the offensive end. And we saw it with Joe Ingles in the first round against the Clippers. He shut down J.J. Redick, but he didn't have a good offensive series. Because he was out there chasing Redick the entire time.
And he's not shutting down Klay Thompson.
And he's not shutting down Klay Thompson, but he's still chasing him around. George Hill is chasing Curry around. Gordon Hayward's having to body up Kevin Durant. And they just didn't have the energy or the execution or the discipline on the offensive end. That was kind of my only big takeaway. It kind of just felt like a regular season game, to be honest. It was
you know what but you know what? Utah did a good job for the most part until the fourth quarter, and I think it was Kelly Scaletta. I want to give him credit. I think it was him. Maybe it was Nate Duncan, one of those guys. Big-time NBA guys on Twitter. We love those guys. They do a fantastic job. Said Utah has done a great job throughout of avoiding the knockout blow, but then the Warriors hit them in the fourth quarter with that knockout punch, and it was a wrap after that. Gonzo, what were your thoughts on last night, Golden State versus Utah?
I think Utah played a good game considering they're playing against the best team in the NBA. But Golden State's talent, the way they play, the speed, the style that they play, is just too overbearing. It's hard for teams like Utah to keep up. I mean, even when they knock a lead down to 2 or 3 points, Golden State has that. They have that ability to automatically kick it back up to double digits in a matter of 20 seconds. It's hard. It's really, and you depend on, sometimes you depend on your team to kind of get in the groove. Usually, when you're playing against any other team. Once you cut a lead to 2 points, we're back in the game now. Your momentum, your momentum is elevated. You feel like you have a chance. But with Golden State, like no lead or no comeback is ever safe because it's like, it's almost like you get close to the train or get close to the rocket ship and then it just takes off again, and it's just it's too far ahead of you again and then it's too big of a deficit in the end to even come back from. So the Warriors are much more talented than Utah Jazz. I kind of feel sorry for Utah because I think they played a hard-fought series against the Clippers, but I don't think they have enough. And I don't think they have the players to win this series.
No, they don't. And Brady mentioned it. It brought up a good point. Gordon Hayward, either way, he's either guarding Kevin Durant or he's got to guard Klay Thompson. So that's tough. He's going to be really working his butt off defensively. That's going to take some energy away from him on the offensive end. Rudy Gobert was really good, but he's not going to carry you offensively. I mean, he made some really good passes. Gobert did. He's going to protect the paint. I mean, you saw Kevin Durant went to the bucket 4 or 5 times, and you could tell he missed layups. That was all Rudy Gobert, even if Rudy Gobert didn't get the block. So Rudy Gobert is going to do those things, but Golden State's just too good defensively. I mean, the way they get out, they get out to shooters, they rotate, and they can switch everything because of just how they're made up. Even Pachulia will get out there, do a little perimeter D on some guys, and it's going to be tough to beat these guys. But I want to, yeah, we're going to get Cavs versus Warriors again, barring any injuries. Let's pray that doesn't happen. But I want to get into this last topic of the day. And I'm going to go to you last, Brady. I'm going to go to Gonzo first here. We talked about it in our little pre-show before we went live. So on Twitter, I'm not naming any names. Not going to name any names here, but there was a tweet today. And it went like this. And anybody who follows this guy, you're going to know who it is. But essentially it was, if your best player is a point guard, he has to have a superpower. And it can't be passing or being great in the pick and roll. So essentially that leaves out Chris Paul and Tony Parker, right? Even though Parker has fallen off. But, let's just say superpower skill. Let's tell Tony Parker that's not a superpower, okay? Nonsense, but it is what it is. Gonzo, what are your thoughts on that? Like, if you're a point guard and you have to have if your best player is a point guard and you have to have a superpower, how is passing not a superpower? Explain that to me.
I think that's probably one of the most retarded things I've heard on Twitter in a while, honestly. But when you're a point guard, passing is a supernatural power. Let's just take this for example. Look at what Rondo did the first 2 games for Chicago.
Yes. Hey, real quick, Gonzo. I DM'd Scott O'Gallagher that same thing. I told him exactly what was said. That's exactly what Scott O'Gallagher told me. They must not have watched what Rondo did games 1 and 2. Shout out to OG. Go ahead, Gonzo.
His passing alone actually had the Bulls up 2-0. And if he didn't get hurt, he probably would have swept Boston. Passing is most definitely a superpower being a point guard because you are the distributor on the team. You're the facilitator. You're the guy who's going to have the ball most of the time, bringing the ball up the court. You're putting people in position to score. So you have the power, and passing is the superpower that you have.
And let me ask you this real quick, Gonzo. So he didn't play this year, but next year he's going to be the Sixers point guard. Ben Simmons, what's his best skill?
It's passing.
Exactly. There you
passing.
go. Exactly.
And let's be honest. Let's look at these teams who don't have players have guys who pretty much point guards and don't have great passing ability. Look how their teams suffer. Let's look at the Raptors right now. Kyle Lowry is not a superhuman passer. His power is not passing. Mm-hmm. They don't have a person on their team with the super ability of passing. And guess what? The Raptors are about to get swept, and they're going to be sent home soon.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at LeBron James. Oh, even over going to the basket a lot, his biggest superpower is probably being able to pass.
Yep.
And guess what it does for his team? They're possibly going to go to the finals again this year.
And LeBron James doesn't lead the league in assists, but I think we can both agree he probably has the best court vision and is the best passer in the NBA.
Absolutely,
Easily.
Hands down, easily. Let's look at people don't give Steph Curry enough credit.
Mm-hmm.
Steph Curry is actually a very good passer. They just need him to shoot more threes. That's what they require of him.
Yeah, and he just makes he makes the occasional bonehead decision, which I know Brady knows. You just shake your head at.
And he does it. Usually, I think he does it most of the time because the style of play that they have, they can afford to be flashy sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the style that they play. But let's be honest. Let's make no mistake about it. I believe Steph Curry can get 10 dimes a game. Absolutely. And average that.
But also, you got to take into account who does a lot of the ball handling. Well, Draymond Green handles the ball. Iguodala handles the ball.
Green, absolutely.
Sean Livingston handles the ball. KD handles the ball. So it's not always in Curry's hand, and he's still getting almost 7 assists a game.
And guess what? The guys you just named, they're all very, very, very good passers.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
Draymond Green is a good passer. Kevin Durant is a good passer. You know what? Mm-hmm. That's one reason why Russell Westbrook's teams aren't they good, because guess what? He's not a superhuman passer.
No. And let's just say this. If we're gonna take passing away as a superpower, Magic Johnson's trash. Then, right? Come on.
Right. That's
come on.
That's one of the silliest things. That's one of the silliest questions I've heard on Twitter in a long time. That might be by far the dumbest thing tweeted this week. And the week isn't even over yet.
Yes, we're only it's only hump day right now. Brady, I'm going to you now because Brady, I'm going to you. You know why? I told you I'm not naming names, but go. I want your thoughts on this nonsense that was tweeted today.
I have so many thoughts, Matt.
I know why too.
One of my biggest problems here is that I think fans get obsessed with these ideas of like the it factor and
Hey, real quick, before you go on, let me add this. The person that tweeted this is considered a really reputable person.
yes,
He writes, he works for a big website there. I'm not going to name it. Yeah, and he puts out really good work, and that's what kind of but there is controversial stuff. So go ahead. I wanted to throw that out there. It wasn't just some random person.
No. He's a reputable guy. He writes good stuff, but both fans and a lot of writers, a lot of analysts, a lot of Charles Barkley style people have this kind of idea where they want to see a certain thing, that kind of Kobe Bryant, Russell Westbrook, make a mean face and start yelling at people, competitive spirit and all that kind of crap. And my feeling is, who cares? Like, you're trying to win the game. Passing is an integral part of the game. No championship team has ever won without really, really, really good passing. It doesn't matter what this superpower is. It doesn't matter whether you have one. What matters is how you impact the game and how you contribute to your team actually winning. And if you're one of the 10 greatest passers ever, which Chris Paul is, in my opinion, that's a superpower. Unless you want to make up your own definition.
He's probably the best leader in the NBA.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that. He's probably the best. That right there should count as another superpower. And I think
absolutely, when
this person, this individual made that comment, the first thing that went through my mind is, you know what? He's trying to control the narrative here. He knew what he was doing. I'm going to make this comment. It's a hot take. Then all the Chris Paul people, the stands, they're going to come after me. And I know you're not a Chris Paul stan, but they're going to come after me. And now, because I've made this initial tweet, I've got you. You've taken the bait. I'm going to destroy you now. And that's and I think that's wrong. Like, if like you're talking about these Steph Curry's a great shooter. We know what KD does. And I agree with his takes on Westbrook. He's a superior athlete. That counts. Yeah. But at the same time, then you're going to say passing doesn't count. Like, that's one of the 3 or 4 most important skills in basketball, and you're just gonna say it doesn't count? Yeah. And this is why, and a really wise person told me this a couple weeks ago. He knows who he is. I'm not gonna throw names out there, but he knows who he is. He said, you know what? And this person played college basketball back in the day. He played, so he was a player, and he said, I'm not gonna hold it against anybody who didn't play. That's wrong, but this is when I have to pull my card, that because I played, I'm going to pull this card. When you make an asinine comment, I'm pulling the card on you. Sometimes I have to pull the card. And I hate doing it, but when you make a stupid comment like that, the card has to be pulled. I have to pull it on you. Yes. If you never played the game before, you can't say a dumbass comment like that. That's just bullshit. Excuse my language. We try to keep it friendly here, but that's bullshit. And yes. Maybe one day I'll reach out to this gentleman and I'll have him come on, and you know what, we'll tear him a new one, But I don't want it to ever come to that, and I didn't want to name his name because I don't want to start a Twitter war, because obviously he's a reputable guy. He could probably make me look really get the blackballed and all that garbage. But I can just line up a panel of all guys who were Division I college basketball players, and we can go at him and see if he feels the same way. I'm not going to do that. I could, but I think that was important to bring up because, in this world, we see ESPN, they fired all these people, the writers, some of their best people got fired. And I don't read everything, so I don't know everybody who lost their job, but they're keeping people with hot takes. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's what we've gotten to now is a hot take thing. And I did something the other day. We recorded an episode where we picked our awards and you know I said so, yeah, I'd made some hot takes on it that probably were really stupid. The audio wasn't great, so we weren't able to post it. But I made some hot takes and I realized how it was really dumb on my part. And ESPN's losing viewerships because of that. I think part of it, you know, you got your now obviously Skip's over at FS1, but you got Stephen A. Smith. I like Max Kellerman for the most part. I know he's not really an NBA guy he's a boxing guy, but I really like Max Kellerman. But Stephen A. Smith comes with a lot of blasphemy. We know what Skip Bayless said, and I think we've come to this hot take society that, you know, and that's what sells now. But it's wrong. You know, let's get. I mean, we need to make these things entertaining. We need to have a good time, but let's not say stupid stuff just to make it entertaining. Yes. You know, you can make it entertaining without being a moron. And I think that's what we've become. And to the gentleman who made that comment on Twitter, he probably doesn't even believe that nonsense he said. There's no way he can. If he believes, he doesn't believe that, but he wants to get hot takes. He wants to troll people, and I think that's the problem. Let's put good stuff. Let's put good content out there. You know, it doesn't always have to be ESPN. Yeah, that's what we need to do. You know, and that's what we try to do here. You know, and that's why when we did our little awards thing a couple weeks ago, I thought about it and I realized that's not the direction I want to take our podcast. I want it to be serious. You know, we can do hot takes every now and again, but let's make it, you know, let's have them good hot takes, you know, but let's not just say something stupid just to get reaction out of people. That's stupid. I don't want to be Skip Bayless and I don't want to be Stephen A. Smith. You know, I think that's why I wanted to talk about this today. But I think that's going to end it for tonight, and we won't be back tomorrow because obviously the last game is late. You know, everybody goes to bed. I know it's easier for you, Brady, because you're out on the West Coast, but I'm here in Central Time, so that game won't be over till about now. But yeah, we'll go Friday. I think we're going to go Friday. We'll go Friday. We're going to go Saturday night. Sunday, my cousin has an AAU tournament, so we probably won't go Sunday because I don't think I'll be able to watch most of the games because I'm going to be his AAU tournament will probably be in Chicago, so I'll be. But we will definitely go Friday night. We'll go Saturday after, and it's one game Saturday, so all we got it'll be just intense, huge coverage of Golden State Utah Game 3. Tomorrow, like I said, nothing tomorrow. We'll be back Friday. We got once again we'll have Cavs and Raptors Game 3, Rockets Spurs Game 3. You're good for that one, Brady?
You know it. Absolutely.
Outstanding. Gonzo, are you good Friday?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so the three of us will be back. Hopefully we'll have Pete on with us. Maybe we'll get Byron back. We'll see what his schedule. So we'll get some other people. And then Saturday we got a new guest coming on. We got my man Charlie Jones, former point guard at University of Houston. He's gonna come on with us on Saturday to talk Golden State, Utah. So everybody be on the lookout till that one. But we will see you guys again on Friday night.